So before you can get started in Baldur's Gate, you have to defeat the first boss of the game, and that's character creation. Now, when you build your character in Baldur's Gate, you can always respec them, but one of the things you can't respec is your race choice. Your race choice is going to be with you throughout the entire game, both as a story, for roleplay, but also kind of like deciding what class combinations are going to be at their best for you. Now, if you're playing in balanced or in narrative, it doesn't really matter. Like, you can kind of play whatever you want. Everything is viable, so please don't take this with this tier list to be a grain of salt. But I want to today, kind of starting with the worst all the way to the best, go through each race in Baldur's Gate, explain some of their weaknesses and strengths, and what classes they would be good with. Now, again, play whatever you want to play, especially if you're playing imbalanced, and play what fits the story you want to tell. More importantly than anything in Baldur's Gate, this is a narrative story. If I say, hey, Dragonborn aren't all that good, but you want to be a Dragonborn, then play a damn Dragonborn and make it work. If I say Drow are amazing, but you don't want to walk around everywhere where people are calling you an underelf, then, do it. But we're going to go through, we're going to rank them D tier, C tier, B tier, A tier, and finally S tier, and explain all of them. If you like this type of content, please like, share, and subscribe. Consider being a part of the community, watching some of the Let's Plays. If there's more videos like this you want me to do, let me know in the comments. But without further ado, let's get started. Starting with D tier, we have humans. I know, humans near and dear to my heart too, right? Like, it's kind of the default experience for a lot of people when you don't want to play a weird alien. But in Baldur's Gate, they're not that good. They got rid of human variant, where you could, because everyone gets to move their stats around, you don't get a free feat at level 1. Hopefully they add that later, because human variant will probably be the strongest race, being able to get a feat at level 1. But they gave us some goodies, right? You get one skill you're proficient in. Well, a ton of other races come with a skill, right? So depending on what skill it is that you want, you can build your build around it and pick the race that's right for it. So the skill of your choice, it's cool, but it's nothing special. Carrying capacity is increased by 1/4. This is useless. You're going to have somebody that's a strength-based character in your party. You can make them carry everything. You can go to camp and drop off all of your camp supplies. You're never going to need the full carrying capacity. And if you're smart, you're not picking up things that like great clubs that are only worth like 12 gold, but are like 14 pounds or something. I think it's actually twice, but you get what I'm saying. In terms of the civil militia, this is kind of cool, though you get this with Half-Elf, and Half-Elf is just much better. Nevertheless, you get this, spears, pikes, halberds, and glaives, and you get light armor and shields. It's cool that Gale can wear light armor and shields. It's cool. There are other races with better armor proficiencies, like the Shield Dwarf or the Githyanki, or again, like the Elf civil militia. And so for these reasons, humans just not that good. If you want to play it. It's kind of the default thing, but that is my D tier ranking. Next, I would say Dragonborn. I know it's really cool to look at, but Dragonborn is essentially a C tier. The reason Dragonborn is C tier is what you get is essentially 2 things. You pick whatever you want, and with the exception of Brass, which has a column of fire. So you get a column of fire with Brass Dragon. Everyone else, it's a cone. And you get fire resistance. So Brass can be okay if you want to play some type of ranged character where you get an extra kind of 2d6. It levels up with you, scales off of Constitution, which is, a big deal for everybody. And it requires a dex save. It's not bad. It's just one breath attack per day and resistance is okay until you realize that Tiefling are going to give you fire resistance, which is the most important anyways, with way more options and abilities. One of them will even give you burning hands once per day at that third level. So like, why would you pick that and lose dark vision and all these other things? So they're cool to look at. They can be fun to role play, but they are the C tier race of choice. They don't really excel at any class. If you want to play a Dragonborn, I would say play a Paladin. Pick one of the ones that give you a conal attack and resistance. Either copper, gold, black dragon, red dragon, in my opinion. This will give you resistance to fire or resistance to acid. Fire being the most common damage type, and acid being the one that lowers your armor class. And if you're the tank, is really important that you don't want to have your armor class lowered. And it's going to give you a breath weapon that you can use in melee. So if you want to play a Dragonborn, I would suggest Paladin, which is very, very strong right now. If you want a little flavor, maybe pick one of the lightning based dragons, get lightning resistance, get 2 levels of Tempest Cleric for the max lightning damage, and then do the rest in Paladin so that you get divine smites that you can do the thunder damage based smites and roll max damage. It can be a fun role play thing and get a lot of lightning charge gear, and it doesn't matter if you like set the water around you, electrify it because you're resistant to lightning. So it can be fun. There's fun things to do with it, but again, it is my C tier. All right, so moving on to B tier. Believe it or not, I would say Tiefling. Tiefling is a B tier to start off with. I put Tiefling at a B tier because you get dark vision, but a lot of people get dark vision, and you get fire resistance, and that's really good. Fire resistance is kind of the most important resistance, especially if you're playing on Tactician. There's a lot of barrels. You're going to get blown up with fire a lot. Having fire resistance is great. Having dark vision is great. Dark vision is probably the most important racial feature in Baldur's Gate 3. If you don't know, just to kind of point this out again, if you don't know, without dark vision and without a source of light, you have disadvantage on attacks. So if you're carrying a torch or someone casts a light cantrip on you, not a big deal for melee, but for ranged characters, it can be a real big deal because you only get light. Light only shines for 10 or 30 feet, depending on whether or not I think it's produce flame or light cantrip. But beyond that range, it's 40 feet is the dark vision, right? But beyond that range of light, if you try and hit something from a distance with like a Eldritch Blast or something, if it's too far away, it's still going to be in the dark, and your dark vision's not going to help you. You're going to have disadvantage on that attack. And this is going to be constant. So much of this game, like all of Act 2 is in the dark. Spoiler. You're going to be in the Underdark. You're going to be in buildings that are dark. You're going to be in dungeons. It's based off a game called Dungeons and Dragons, right? There's a lot of dark areas in this game, and dark vision is just super, super helpful. So the dark vision combined with the fire resistance, pretty nice. Now, in our 3 tiers, we have Asmodeus. So Asmodeus gives you Produce Flame as a cantrip, which is kind of like a poor man's light cantrip and a poor man's firebolt combined into one, which is pretty helpful if you're a character that doesn't have either of those things. So Produce Flame can be good if you're a melee character, right? And you pop Produce Flame, and then you just have an aura of light on you that you can throw if need be, if you need to do some fire damage or something or blow something up. But also you can have it on yourself so that if you have a ranged character that doesn't have dark vision, they can see because you're emitting light. So it's decent. At level 3, which isn't shown here in character creation, you will get access to Hellish Rebuke, which it's okay. you use a reaction to once per day do some fire damage back at somebody. It's nothing special. You get darkness. Darkness can be super helpful. With Mistopheles Tiefling, you get Mage Hand. Again, Mage Hand is really nerfed in Baldur's Gate 3. Most of the things you can do with Mage Hand, you can just do with a bow and arrow. It's not that helpful. It seems really helpful to have like a Mage Hand to pull levers and, push buttons and, top things over, but it's like they can't really pick up much. Even the special Mage Hand that rogues get can't pick locks or disable traps. And again, a bow and arrow will hit most of those levers, push most of those buttons, etc. It's okay. You get Burning Hands at level 3, and you get Flame Blade at level 5. Great melee character. This is essentially the fire paladin of Dragonborn, except better because you get dark vision. And you get Flame Blade. And then lastly, Zariel Tiefling. You get Thaumaturgy. Intimidation and performance checks, being able to get advantage on them for yourself, it can be nice. It can be nice. If you're going to do like a bad guy playthrough, having advantage whenever you want on intimidation checks can be really good, especially if you're playing a character that doesn't have quite that good of intimidation, of persuasion. Like you're not playing a paladin or a bard or a warlock or something, but you're playing like a monk or a barbarian, and charisma is like one of your dump stats. This can be a good way to do that. Like a barbarian can be fun. If you're playing Dark Urge, you'll have intimidation as one of your skills. So maybe a Dark Urge Zariel Tiefling barbarian or something can be great. You get that fire resistance. Doesn't stack with bear form fire resistance, right? So maybe pick a berserker or a wild heart. There's a lot of, but there are some possibilities there for sure. And then you get Searing Smite at level 3 and Branding Smite at level 5. These are great. These are basically free smites. They're not super strong. Branding Smite is, allows you to try and make sure that someone doesn't go invisible. It's very niche. Searing Smite's just going to add some additional fire damage to your repertoire once per day. And again, not a bad pick. Zariel Tiefling can make a great barbarian. That's why Karlach is one. Right? You kind of already have one. So maybe a paladin, it's okay. Like I said, it's better than the Dragonborn. There are still better options. Rounding out the B tier, we're going to have 2 of the Gnome subclasses, not all 3. So we'll transition into A tier with one of them. Spoiler. So Gnome Cunning is really, really, really strong. This is a great racial feature. Almost bumps them into the A tier section by itself. Advantage on intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws. Now, intelligence and charisma saving throws are not that common, but wisdom is like your charm, your illusions, basically your fears. A ton of things are wisdom saving throws. A ton of spells, high level spells, are wisdom saving throws. And having advantage on all of them, as opposed to just illusions, just charm, just this is really strong. Now you might think, well, sleep or whatever. Sleep is usually not a wisdom saving throw. It's usually like a constitution saving throw. A lot of spells like evocation spells are dex saving throws. But, wisdom, con, and dex, those are your main 3. And you get wisdom as well as a bonus, the rarely use charisma and intelligence. The drawback is you lose 5 feet of movement speed, right? You losing, or 1.5 meters. You lose a little bit of movement speed, and that can be a problem. The other plus side from being a small person is there's a couple of instances in the game where there are things you can crawl through that you wouldn't be able to crawl through if you were medium size. Moving on to the sub races, you have the Rock Gnome, which gives you dark vision. Again, dark vision, super good. As well as double proficiency bonus on history checks. So this is essentially expertise on history. It's cool. It's cool for flavor. It's fun. Not particularly like super useful. There will be moments where it helps, I'm sure, but not crazy. And then Force Gnome gives you dark vision and speak with animals. Speak with animals is cool. You should definitely always have someone in your party with speak with animals. The problem is speak with animals is really easy to get in Baldur's Gate 3. You get it at level 2 as a ranger spell if you pick it, and you can cast it as a ritual, right? So someone in your party is likely going to be Gloomstalker Rogue or Gloomstalker Fighter or something, Ranger, and because it's the best range class you can do. Speak with animals is super easy. You get it at level 2 that way. You'll get it as a druid. You'll get it as a wild heart barbarian. You'll be able to craft and find potions of animal speaking that last until a long rest. There's just so many ways to speak with animals in this game that it's just getting it as a racial feature is like cool, I guess. And so that rounds out the B tiers. Moving on to the A tier, I'm going to start with the third subclass for Gnome. So again, just a reminder, Gnomes have that small stature that allows them to squeeze through certain things. They lose a little bit of movement speed, either 1.5 meters or 5 feet. They gain advantage on intelligence, wisdom, and charisma saving throws, the super important one here being wisdom. But the Deep Gnome absolutely pushes into A tier, possibly S tier, depending on what class you're picking. They get superior dark vision. Superior dark vision is a must. I wouldn't say it's a must-have. That's too strong. It is an amazing feature that makes you not have to worry about the dark whatsoever, even for your ranged characters. So if you're a warlock or a wizard or some type of archer of a build of some sort, then superior dark vision, 80 feet. It's everything that you need, or 24 meters. It's exactly everything you need for the game. You never have disadvantage because they're in the dark. Super helpful. And then lastly, stone camouflage, advantage on stealth checks. Stealth in this game is a little wonky in that you don't really need to worry about your stealth skills so long as you stay out of line of sight. And then you need a really good stealth roll if you're going to walk into people's line of sight. And so a lot of things you can have terrible stealth skill and still be able to stealth to an advantageous point, or you can have a really good stealth skill and get caught just as easily as anybody else. But the advantage on those checks for a stealth-based character is really good. Now, why is Deep Gnome not an S tier? Right? And I'll explain why everything's not an S tier in this category of A tier. The one class that it would be most useful for would be Gloomstalker Ranger, and that class already gets superior dark vision. So you're going to want to be building a stealth-based pure rogue, or maybe a way of the shadow monk, right? These classes would be great. It's not a good ranger, Gloomstalker Ranger class. Though I will say, advantage on stealth checks and advantage on wisdom saving throws is still not bad as a ranger. And the fact that your first turn you get an additional 10 movement speed can make up for that 5 feet of movement speed, so that you can find a nice advantageous position by having 35 feet of movement speed in the first turn. So it's not bad for that. There are just better choices for that. And Way of the Shadow really isn't strong until level 11, whereas Way of the Open Hand is much, much stronger, and it's not a stealth-based kind of system. And so that really just leaves you with a pure rogue build. And while pure rogue can be fun, there are better ways to play it. And, if you really want one in your party, why wouldn't you just pick Astarion, right? I don't, but again, it's still an A tier. It's still a great race to pick. All All right, so moving on. Next, I want to talk about both the elves and half-elves. Both elf and half-elf are A tier. So what do you get from the elf and half-elf? Both of them you get dark vision, right? Which again, we stated 40 feet of dark vision, 12 meters. Very good. You get advantage on saving throws against being charmed, as well as you cannot be put to sleep. So no sleep type spell, powder, potion is going to knock you out. And you're going to have advantages against charm, and you're going to have dark vision. All of these are great. Now with the elf, you're going to get weapon proficiency with longsword, short bow, and longbow. This can be great for a rogue where you don't get longbow proficiency, for example, but you want to do some type of ranged class. Like if you want to do that pure kind of ranger thing that I was talking about. Yeah, I mean the elf can be pretty good. The wood elf specifically. Half elf is going to get the human proficiency, right? So light armor and shields with spears, pikes, halberds, and glaives. This is where I was talking about earlier, where it's like, yeah, like why wouldn't you just pick an elf? And the other thing is, like I said before, where humans get one skill. Well, all of the half elves and elves all get perception as a skill. So that's your skill. So you get perception, you get these weapon proficiencies, which if you're a sorcerer or something can be really good. You know, you get light armor and a shield, and you can actually equip a quarterstaff in one hand. And boom, you don't need mage armor. You rock like, padded armor or studded leather armor +1, and you're already sitting in like 14 plus dex mod as your armor class, and then add the shield and you have 2 more, and before you know it, you have like tanky sorcerer, and you didn't even have to get 2 levels of Tempest Cleric. So this is true with the elf and half elf. Now they'll have slightly different interactions, role play. Really, honestly, there isn't a significant difference between the two of them, other than, like I said, you get light armor and shields and like the reach weapons with half elf, and with the regular elf you get long sword, short bow, and longbow. So that might affect what you're playing. If you're playing like a sorcerer or a wizard, definitely go half elf. But if you're playing anything else, it's kind of just a flavor at that point. Now with the high elf and the half high elf, you'll be able to get a cantrip. All of the cantrips can be really useful. But this is super good for certain things. If you are playing, again, a character, much like the Zariel Tiefling, if you're playing a character where charisma is a dump stat, but you still want to be the main character, you still want to do most of the talking, picking up friends, high elf, you get dark vision, you get some form of proficiencies, you get the ability to get advantage on charms, and you can't be put to sleep. And then you can grab friends on, let's say, your monk or your barbarian, something that doesn't have a lot of charisma. And you can utilize this to essentially have advantage on all of your speaking skills. Be careful in tactician. People can notice that you did this, and it can cause problems. But if you're playing balanced, you don't have to worry about it. Honorable mentions here, getting an additional firebolt or bone chill or even acid splash or ray of frost. These are all can be really good. Minor illusion can be good for the sneaky people, because remember how I said it's all kind of field of vision. Well, minor illusion can allow you, while stealth, to make someone look somewhere else while you walk past them. And this can mean that you don't actually have to make that stealth check. Allowing you to get to places that you normally wouldn't be able to get to. And again, mage hand, it's okay. Light, it's okay. Dancing lights can be fun if you're a ranged character. For example, you can pop dancing lights over somewhere, light up that area in a 30-foot radius. Now, all of a sudden, you don't have to worry about disadvantage on your attacks. True Strike can be really good for those incredibly high armor class people, where basically you need to roll a nat 20 in order to hit them. But it doesn't make sense on the action economy whatsoever, because you give up one attack, so that your next attack can have advantage. Well, mathematically speaking, you could have just attacked twice. So you didn't actually do anything. So yeah. It really, the only time True Strike actually mathematically does anything is like if they're gonna be weakened next turn by some environmental thing or a spell or something, and you know that, then you can bump up the next attack or something. It's incredibly situational. Just don't get it. So moving on to Wood Elf. Wood Elf. So Wood Elf is going to give you the same, instead of getting a cantrip, you're going to get 5 feet of movement speed. Right off the bat, that's amazing. Instead of moving 30 feet, you're moving 35 feet. Instead of moving 8 meters or 9 meters, you're moving 10.5 meters. This is just, an additional movement speed is never bad. Especially once you realize that it takes movement speed to stand up from prone, right? So it can make being knocked down prone feel way less damaging. If someone hits you with a ray of frost and they're trying to catch up to you, that ray of frost reduces your movement speed by 10 feet, but for a wood elf, it's really only 5 feet. Brace, this thing where you give up 20 feet of movement speed in order to do additional damage with certain weapons. Well, 20 feet of movement speed leaves you with 10 feet of movement speed for everybody else, or 5 feet of movement speed if you're a dwarf or a halfling or a gnome. But for you, it's 15 feet, right? So it's really 50% more movement speed as opposed to, 1/6 more movement speed in those situations. So it's just great. And the second thing is that Wood Elf and Half Wood Elf come with the skill. It doesn't say it in the description, but it says here, and camouflage are enhanced by an otherworldly swiftness. It's like, what does that mean? It means you get stealth as a skill. And being able to get perception and stealth as a skill can make for a really good skill junkie character. If you're playing a bard or a ranger or a rogue, for example, you can go ranger and you can go wood elf and you can get perception and stealth as skills right off the bat, and then you can pick to get investigation as a skill, and then you can pick another thing to get a knowledge skill, and then you're getting like 4 skills plus the skills you pick from the ranger class and plus your background. Before you know it, you're a hardcore skill junkie. It's a great alternative. So, in A tier, we have the Half-Orc. Now, Half-Orc is one that a lot of people aren't playing. It's definitely slept on, I think. Probably just because it's ugly. There's not a lot of interesting dialogue that people want to experience. I haven't played it yet. I'm willing to bet that there is some fun stuff from Half-Orc. But with Half-Orc, if I can just move this back over. Whoops. With Half-Orc, we have a few things that are, well, they're really only strong for melee, but they're super strong. So, dark vision. As we've said multiple times, dark vision is super good. If you can get it, you want it. It's absolutely great. But the next thing we have here, relentless endurance. So if you reach 0 hit points, you gain 1 hit point instead of becoming downed. This only occurs once per long rest, but this essentially means that when you should have been dead, or not dead, but like fighting for your life, downed, the downed status effect, you just have 1 HP. It's basically like a free self auto-cast healing word. And on top of that, when you go down and you get hit with a healing word, when you come back up, you don't have a you only have a bonus action. You have movement speed. You have some movement speed, and you have no action. So all you can do is like drink a health potion or something, and oftentimes you just end up going down again. But not with the Half-Orc. You stay up, you stay fighting. You're a crazy son of a gun, relentless endurance, and you keep going. This gives you another turn to try and heal your Half-Orc. And of course, this one is really slept on as well. So this is Savage Attacks. When you land a critical hit with a melee weapon attack, again, it says melee weapon attack. I've heard mixed things about half-orc monks, which is that some of their attacks aren't considered melee weapon attacks when they're using their fists, but that the quarterstaff and the short sword, and like if you have proficiency with longsword from like a racial feat or something, that it is considered a melee weapon attack, right? So the quarterstaff might be considered a melee weapon attack here. But nevertheless, when you do a weapon attack, if you crit, instead of your damage being doubled, your damage is being tripled. Okay? I'm going to say it again. Your damage is being tripled. So the half-orc. The half-orc is not a good sorcerer, really. I mean, it's cool. The relentless endurance is good for everybody. The dark vision's okay for everybody. But again, it's not superior dark vision. So it's not helping you with those like long off things. Unless, of course, someone else has a light cantrip on, someone in melee, etc. And at that point, it wouldn't matter whether or not you have dark vision. So it's not, but for melee, it is amazing. You make a warrior or a barbarian or a paladin or a melee build, ranger build, though let's be honest, ranged ranger builds are just better. But you make a melee ranger build, the savage attacks, the relentless endurance, the dark vision, they all work great. What I would definitely suggest, again, if you're trying something really OP, go ahead and grab cleric, go Tempest Domain, get that free attack back, right? Pick Talos or pick Grumsh, right? Get 2 levels of half-orc so that you can get the Tempest Cleric to level 2, then go Paladin and get a ton of Divine Smites and use the Thunder damage one. Then what you do is you get the Psionic power from the Illithid that allows you to automatically crit if you land an attack. Use that one. Use your Tempest Cleric. Use your Thunder damage smite attack, and literally you will delete people in the first turn. You will get to do a 2-handed weapon attack that is an automatic crit. The crit does triple damage. Then attached to it will be 2d8, 3d8, 4d8 thunder damage, except you're going to be able to do max damage with it. Oh, and by the way, it's going to crit. You're going to do like 100 damage, especially if you have some type of lightning orb situation. And you're going to just delete people right at the beginning of a fight. It's absolutely amazing, and Half-Orc makes it that combo even better. All right, so moving on, we will go to Halfling. Halfling is another example of one of these races that is small size, and because of that, they lose 5 feet or 1.5 meters of movement speed, which can be rough, right? Especially when compared to the Wood Elf. It's like, well, hey, these are both, A tier. You talked about how amazing the movement speed is. Isn't it just as bad that the movement speed is lost here? Absolutely. That's what keeps it from being S tier. If it had the same movement speed, this would be an S tier. And that's because of this feature right here. It is amazing. When you roll a 1 for an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, you can re-roll the die and must use the new roll. This basically makes critical failures, critical misses, non-existent, because you have to roll 2 nat 1s in a row. If you have if it's an easy to pass DC, and you have all the skills necessary to pass it, but you roll a 1, you just roll it again and nope, everything's fine. And this is true for being frightened. This is true for everything, for being charmed. Every saving throw in the game, there is a 5%. Every ability check, every attack roll, there is a 5% chance that no matter what your bonuses are, you fail. And this brings that 5% chance down to the second 5%. I haven't been in calculus in a long time. I don't feel like looking up the percentage, or trying to do it mathematically, but it's really low, right? You need to roll 2 nat 1s in a row in order for it to occur. It's It doesn't feel that substantial, but throughout the course of a game, there are a ton of times that you avoid rolling a nat 1. As a matter of fact, it's also important to recognize that the Illithid wisdom powers, the only way you can fail these is with a nat 1 as well. A nat 1 and like a minus to wisdom. But nevertheless, you fail and it's like, nope, you don't fail. You're good to go. Then they have advantage on saving throws against being frightened. Combining that with, everything combined with lucky just is awesome. But you're not going to get feared with this character. They're going to be brave as the name of the trait suggests. Lastly, you have Strongheart Halfling, which is, don't pick it. I don't know what to tell you. Don't pick it. Poison resistance just isn't worth it. There's some levels of poison. Poison sucks. Don't get me wrong. It gives you disadvantage on saving throws and stuff, and it's nice. But if you're picking Halfling, you're doing so because you're playing a class with advantage, right? With stealth. And this is going to give you advantage on those stealth checks. Super, super helpful. This is a great Gloomstalker Ranger character. And I'll tell you why. Because Halfling doesn't come with dark vision. But at level 3, you will get superior dark vision for being a Gloomstalker Ranger. So you no longer have to worry about that. You will have advantage on your stealth checks. You will be able to re-roll nat 1s. You'll be dang near immune to fears. And the fact that you only have 25 feet of movement speed, you won't feel that because you're a ranged class, and the whole thing you're trying to do is get into a position of elevation so that you have advantage on your ranged shots. You get that 10 feet additional movement speed in the first round. So as soon as you're level 3 and you're a halfling, you have everything you need. The only thing you might be missing is a little bit of skills that you would have gotten from other classes. But it is a strong, great class for that build. Highly suggest checking out the Halfling and making it a Gloomstalker Ranger build. I would go 5 or 6 levels of Ranger and the rest in Rogue. Giving yourself 7 levels of Rogue gives yourself improved evasion. You miss out on 1 feat, but you get extra attack. You get some sneak attack damage. The best of both worlds. Great build. If the short's not out already, that will be one of the OP build shorts that I'll be putting out. So definitely stay tuned for that if it's not out already. So the dwarves, last but certainly not least, are dwarves. These are going to be your A tier with one exception. So the dwarf, right off the bat, they have battle axe, hand axe, light hammer, and warhammer as proficiencies. It's okay. It's okay, right? If you're playing a class that doesn't have these proficiencies, you should probably play half-elf or half-elf wood elf or half-elf high elf or drow or Githyanki. Like there are better ways to get better proficiencies, especially armor proficiencies. You don't need a battle axe unless you're a strength-based character. And if you're a strength-based character, you already have martial weapon proficiency. So this is kind of useless. But it does come with dark vision. And as we stated before, and as I'll say it over and over again, dark vision is super important. And then lastly, we have Dwarven Resilience, which is advantage against poison, and you have resistance to poison damage. So as comparison, the half-elf Strongheart Halfling, right, has the same thing. And remember how I said not that big of a deal? It's not worth it over advantage on stealth checks. Same thing here. Poison is okay, having advantage on it so that you don't get disadvantage on attacks and saving throws, and tactician can be good to make sure that you don't get poison. Resistance to that damage is cool, but it's just not a super common damage type like fire. And so it's like a cherry on top. It's like a cool little bonus. It's not anything that you should build a character off of. So you're basically, so far, the selling point is dark vision. So looking at this, why is this an A tier then? Well, of course you've got your dark vision and you got the little cherry on top of it. Next, we look at the additional features, and these are all pretty strong. Dwarven toughness. Dwarven toughness combined with the little cherry on top poison resistance and dark vision makes for an amazing tank. So this is going to give you 1 HP per level. Okay. Now, if you're a fighter that has a D10 that gets, a D10 that gets 7 additional health per level, right? And let's say you have a constitution score of 16 because that's one of your major stats, and you wanted to make a strength-based character, that's going to give you 13 at level 1. That's going to give you 23 at level 2. But with the gold dwarf, just the gold dwarf, that's going to be 14 at level 1 and 25 at level 2. I mean, that at 25 HP at level 2, 7, 3 is 10, 11. We're going to get 36 HP at level 3. Like, these are barbarian numbers for a fighter. And heaven forbid you pick a fighter with, a D12, 3, that's 15. So 16 HP at level 1. It's amazing, right? You want to play and have fun and have a giant health pool and have dark vision, have the cherry on top of poison resistance. You can make a great fighter, paladin, barbarian, melee tank with this. You could even maybe in balanced get away with a tank that wouldn't normally work, like a dual wield tank where you eschew some armor class, but you get the feat that allows you, you get to go fighter, get 2 weapon fighting, and then get dual wielding as a feat. So you get an additional armor class. So you kind of like having a shield. Yeah, I mean, like you can do a lot of fun stuff with this with so much health. Next, we have the shield dwarf. This is going to give you proficiency with light and medium armor. Okay. Now, this can be a great pure sorcerer, pure wizard. It can be an okay warlock, right? You grab this. So let's say you want to make a warlock build, pure warlock, right? Nothing. And you want to be a caster warlock, right? You want to go pack to the tome, which is going to give you additional spells and cantrips and things like that. So what you do is you pick shield dwarf, and you're going to have your dark vision. That way you don't have to pick devil sight, and you're going to have medium armor bonus. Or better yet, you're a sorcerer or a wizard, and you can rock scale mail armor right from the beginning of the game. You don't need to pick up a fighter or tempest cleric or something like that in order to get those proficiencies. You can get them right from your race. So shield dwarf is a great thing to do specifically for sorcerer, for those classes that aren't going to get it. I wouldn't do it for bard, even though bard don't get medium armor, because you're probably going to pick like College of Swords and get medium armor anyways, right? The barbarian's already got it. The fighter, the paladin's already got it. The ranger's already got it. Rogue, you're going to be a super dex-based build. And so, like, while it's cool to have medium armor, you can only get +2 armor class from the medium armor. And so by the time you get 18 or 20 dex, you're missing 1 or 2 armor class so that you can get 1 or 2 more armor class. It starts to not be effective compared to just rocking light armor. That's going to tend to have things that are better for your sneaky type anyways. But this is still an amazing choice for a sorcerer or a wizard. Now, moving on to the S tiers. First off in S tier, we have Duragar. So just to backtrack a little bit, you get dark vision. You get resistance to poison as well as advantage on saving throws to poison. Both of these, you're really just doing it for the dark vision, but this resistance and advantage on saving throw to poison is good, but it's not a reason to pick a class. But superior dark vision is. Superior dark vision is so good. It allows you to pick a sorcerer or a wizard and never have to worry. So long as the target's within 80 feet, you're not going to have disadvantage on your ranged attacks, your spell attacks, etc. But we're not done there. Duragar also get advantage on saving throws against illusions and against being charmed or paralyzed. So charms, paralyze, and all illusions. These are quite a big chunk of your wisdom saving throws, as well as the paralyzed, con saving throws. This is a great sorcerer or wizard. Yeah, you don't get the medium armor. You're gonna have to rock light armor. You might have to use mage shield or something of that, or pick up something that gives you armor class. But it's well worth it. But with Duergar, we're still not done. At level 3, which isn't shown in character creation, you're going to get the ability to enlarge yourself. Enlarge is going to make you, once per day, you're going to be able to turn yourself bigger. You're going to be able to then throw large creatures, which is amazing for certain barbarian builds and things like that, and throw regular creatures. You're going to do additional 1d4 with strength-based weapons. And you're going to have advantage on saving throws against being shoved or grappled, like pushback attacks, etc. This is a great ability for a lot of melee classes, especially if you're like a melee ranged hybrid. This could make a great 4 levels warlock, 8 levels paladin, and do Pact of the Blade warlock, so that you can use your charisma for your attack bonuses and things like that. So you don't have a lot of strength, right? But in a situation where you feel like you might get pushed around, boom, you've got your own enlarge that you can use once per day. And you've got, all of these extra resistances that you can use in melee. And you have this superior dark vision that you can use to throw an Eldritch Blast like 80 feet away if you need to. Absolutely amazing class. I would play Duergar for sure in at least one playthrough in Tactician. Maybe pick up 2 levels Tempest Cleric, the rest Paladin for those hardcore those hardcore Tempest Smites or oh god, I can't think of the Storm Smite. The one that does thunder damage. You know what it is. You can re-roll it for max damage. You can grab the Illithid power that allows you to crit with, the first ability that hits. Stack those 2 things together, absolutely decimate somebody, hit somebody in the distance with an Eldritch Blast. If you want to go 4, 6, 2, there's a lot of really cool multi-class things you can do with the Duergar. It's just, it is amazing class. But we're still not done. Sorry, amazing race. We're still not done. At 5th level, Duergar get to cast invisibility once, not per day, per battle. Yeah, you heard me. Per battle. You're gonna hop off into the shadows, pop invisibility, run away, get to a safe location, won't provoke attacks of opportunity, completely immune to anybody really seeing or messing with them, unless you have a fairy fire on you or somebody counterspells you, or there's some type of interaction stops you from going invisibility, or they have the ability to see invisible, like some people, some rare things, like I think like the Spectator can see invisibility. But for the most part, you're just going to be able to run away, and you're going to be able to go to a nice safe location. Amazing again for a caster. It is well worth picking this class. And you don't have to use a slot. You don't have to use a spell slot to cast invisibility. Absolutely an S tier pick for a lot of casters, and potentially for some of those multi-class paladin builds like the Warlock Paladin or the Tempest Cleric Paladin. Definitely want to check this out. Moving on to the next S tier would be the Drow. Now, much like the Duergar, which I kind of forgot to mention, a lot of people aren't going to like you. A lot of people are going to be calling you an underelf. Like, it's going to come with some stuff. But some of you guys might like that. That's a really cool roleplay interaction. But what do the Drow get? Well, the Drow get that same proficiency thing that the elves and half-elves get, but theirs is a little different. Okay? Theirs is going to be, they're going to get rapiers, short swords, and hand crossbows. It's cool. It's flavorful. It's not that helpful. The rapier can be nice for like a sorcerer or somebody that has dex. But I mean, again, you're just like, why not just use a quarterstaff, right? Like, what is the supreme advantage of the rapier being able to put a slightly better attack? Like, if you're a class that's going to be using a rapier, you probably already have the proficiency anyways. Same with the hand crossbow. Are you going to dual wield hand crossbows as a sorcerer in your range slot? No, you're going to firebolt, right? There's just no reason to use it unless you're a class that already can use it. You get the Fey ancestry, so same as the half-elves and elves that are in A tier, you get that advantage on being charmed, and you can't be put to sleep by magic, anyways. So that's really good. Now, the difference, what puts them in S tier? Again, superior dark vision. If you pick a caster, you pick a sorcerer, you pick a wizard, you pick a warlock, you've got this. Now, if you pick warlock, you can get Devil's Sight as an invocation, but if you're doing a caster warlock, maybe you want that pushing Eldritch Blast so that your Eldritch Blast can push back 15 feet and you want to add your charisma mod. Well, you can't have it all, but you can if you pick the Drow. What else do the Drow get? So, because like that alone isn't quite S tier, but the Drow also get two other things. And this is where I would also argue that I didn't know where to place the half-elf, half-drow. I didn't talk about them before because I feel like they could be an A tier. They could also be an S tier. I'll let you guys decide this. They don't get superior dark vision, but what they get in return is the Dancing Lights cantrip. But they still get dark vision. So they have dark vision. And in the event that something is further away than their dark vision, they can use an action to use dancing lights to light or illuminate that area, which gets rid of that disadvantage. So they have to use an action, which is not as good. But having this cantrip for free for that area where something's really far away, it means that likely the rest of your party can't see it, right? Because even if you have a party of dark vision, well, you have dark vision. So if it's an issue for you, it's an issue for Astarion. It's an issue for, it's obviously an issue for Lae'zel, who doesn't have dark vision at all. It's an issue for Will, unless he's got Devil's Sight. It's an issue for Gale, no matter what. It's an issue for everybody, with the exception of maybe Will if he has Devil's Sight. And so popping that Dancing Lights for one action, so that someone else can attack, and then you can have it that you can no longer have that disadvantage next turn. I would put it I would say that it can be an S tier, depending on how good you are at the game and how much you think about utilizing Dancing Lights at the right time. Moving back to Drow, this is also true of the half-elf Drow as well as the Drow. And you don't see this written in the description, which is you get perception as a skill. So if we come over here and we click human, you'll notice that perception disappears. But the moment that we pick Drow, we get perception. So you get that perception skill, just like half-elves and elves. And on top of that, when you level to level 3, both the half-drow and the drow get, where is it? I wrote it down, both. Fairy Fire. Sorry. Fairy Fire. Fairy Fire is a great ability. An AoE ability. It lights something up. It makes it so that they can't go invisible. So if you have somebody that likes to pop invisibility or a caster, you can keep them from going invisible. And it gives everyone advantage on attacks, which, makes it easier to hit them, allows rogues to automatically get sneak attacks, right? Half-drow, in my opinion, half-drow can make an amazing Gloomstalker Ranger build, again, because you're going to get the superior dark vision, but now you got the dancing lights if you happen to need it. You have the Fairy Fire that you don't need to use a spell slot for. You have the perception skill for free. You can't be charmed. You can't be put to sleep. I mean, you could be charmed, but you have advantage. It's a great all-around class. And then for the cherry on top, at level 5, you get the darkness spell. Cast once per day, darkness. Now, darkness is really important more so in Tactician than it is in Balanced. In Balanced, it's really annoying. You throw down Darkness and then nobody can see anything. And it's just like, why did I do this? This is a useless spell. In Tactician, it's totally different because there are times where you're on the brink of death and you need to throw down a Darkness and then hide behind a pillar, move your party out of there, use some of the action economy over the next turn or two to like heal up, maybe put a grease in front of the Darkness, force the enemies to funnel through the Darkness and then like blow up the grease or something, or maybe put like a sleet storm or something like that. Darkness can't really be dispelled unless it's like a daylight spell or something like that. And so you can use it to essentially force movement into funneled areas. It's incredibly overpowered if utilized well, but it takes a couple of turns to set up and use appropriately. And so while I would say Drow and Half-Drow are absolutely S tier, if you're playing on Balanced, proper utilization of Dancing Lights, proper utilization of the Darkness cantrip, you're not gonna need to use it that way, right? The combat's gonna be over. You don't need as much prep time. Maybe use the Duragar. Maybe try out a half-elf wood elf, so you just get the faster movement speed and the extra skill. There are choices that might be better for you because you're playing imbalanced. But in Tactician, it is absolutely an S tier racial pick. You get Fairy Fire, which is very helpful. Darkness, very helpful. You get Perception. You get superior dark vision. And on top of that, you get some resistances that can always be nice. Definitely pick. And so the last race, I saved the best for last. It is, you may, if you've been watching this video the whole time, you're thinking, no, that can't be the best race. It is the least played race as of the current statistics. And yeah, it's Githyanki. Githyanki is without a doubt, there is no question, is the strongest racial pick that you can pick in Baldur's Gate 3. It is absolutely amazing. If it had dark vision, there would never ever be a reason to pick any other race other than this one every single time, always, forever, period, done. Githyanki is amazing. The reason people don't play Githyanki, I don't know. Is it because they're ugly? Maybe. Is it because you have to go to the creche and scream about Caniac? I don't know. Maybe you guys don't like that. But I'm here to tell you, just like my own playthrough, if you want to watch a playthrough, I'm playing Githyanki in the Let's Play because Vlaakith be praised. Githyanki is the strongest race in Baldur's Gate 3. Let's talk about it. Number 1, Astral Knowledge. This is absolutely insane. This is the strongest racial ability in the game, period. Once per day, until you finish a long rest, you gain proficiency in all skills of a chosen ability. What does this mean? This means that if you pick intelligence for the day, it doesn't show anymore. I'm gonna have to just do it off the dome. We can do it off the dome, boys. Don't worry. I'm a D&D nerd. So if you pick intelligence for the day and you just pop this on yourself, you gain proficiency in the skills, history, arcana, nature, investigation, and religion for the whole day. That's 5 skills that you gained. You can gain 5 skills from a racial feature. But don't worry. Maybe tomorrow you want to do dex stuff. So you can get acrobatics and sleight of hand and stealth. Or maybe, just maybe, for whatever reason, you're not planning on doing a lot of combat or a lot of knowledge checks, but you're trying to do a lot of talking with people. Maybe you pick persuasion, deception, performance, and intimidation, all as skills that you pick up from being a Githyanki. There's no question about it. This is an insane ability. Build your character. What I would suggest you do, this in no matter what class you're playing. Unless you're playing a wizard. And even right, unless you're playing a wizard, which is a spellcaster based off of intelligence, make intellect your dump stat. Okay? Make it your dump stat at 8 points. Even if you're playing a class like rogue or fighter that you plan on making Eldritch Knight or Arcane Trickster. Okay? Make intelligence your dump stat. And then go and get the headband of intellect early on in the game, killing the ogres that you blow the horn with, or convince them to use the horn. Use the horn in a situation you feel is necessary, then kill them or let them die. Grab the headband of intellect. Make your intellect automatically 17, and then what you can do is make sure you build your whole party to not pick up knowledge skills, and you can give yourself all of the knowledge skills: history, religion, arcana, nature, and investigation. And with the headband of intellect, have a +3 right in the beginning of the game. You have a +5 to all of those skills, +6 very soon after. It's amazing. But the Gith aren't done being absolutely amazing. They get regular movement speed, and then they get light and medium armor proficiency. Building a sorcerer, put them in scale mail. Put your wizard in scale mail. Put them in a breastplate so that they don't have disadvantage on stealth checks. They can still get +2 dex to their armor class, and they get a base armor class of 15, or is it 15? Is it 14? I think they changed breastplate from 15 to 14. I'll have to check that up. I apologize. But nevertheless, you still get like 16 armor class if you've got 2 dex, 16 or 17 armor class without even utilizing a shield. Oh, and by the way, you can rock a great sword. Let's be honest. Short sword, long sword, great sword. If you don't have that, you probably don't have a great strength. So that portion isn't that big of a deal. But it can be fun to build a rogue with a great sword or something like that. But for the most part, the real really cool thing here is being able to get medium armor proficiency. But wait, Githyanki aren't done yet. At first level, they get a free mage hand cantrip, okay? They called Githyanki Psionics Mage Hand. As we discussed earlier, Mage Hand isn't that amazing. You can use ranged weapons, etc. Again, not that great. But it's still useful. It still has its uses. It's still nice in those rare situations where you actually do need Mage Hand. You're glad you have it. Next, at level 3, they get the jump spell. They get a jump spell that they get to use once per long rest. Okay? So if there's a situation where, if you're a fighter and you want to jump halfway across the battlefield, I don't know, maybe you're fighting the Harpies in Act 1 and they fly over the cliffs and they've got 2 of your people just, dazed and confused, listening to that song. You pop the jump spell and you just jump up the cliffs and you mess a harpy up and stop him from singing. It can be great during combat. It can also be great if you're a ranged stealthy type, right? Go Gloomstalker Ranger again. Get the superior dark vision on top of all of these things for free. And, you're stealthing somewhere and you want to get to a high vantage point that nobody can get to, pop the jump spell, jump way over there, start combat, nobody can get to you. Well, speaking of hard to get places, at 5th level, what do they get? Again, an amazing ability. They get Misty Step once per day for free. Misty Step is a must-have on every sorcerer, wizard build, except for maybe Storm Sorcerer, because they can cast a 1st level spell and then pop fly and get away. But excluding Storm Sorcerer, right, having the ability to Misty Step as a bonus action and move from one point to another is absolutely invaluable. And you get it for free just for being a Githyanki. So what do we get as a Githyanki again? We get light armor and medium armor proficiency. We get some fun weapon proficiencies. We get Mage Hand. We get Jump. We get Misty Step. Jump and Misty Step being amazing abilities. And then on top of that, we get an ability once per day where we can make 4 or 5 skills have proficiency bonus, allowing us to be a full-blown skill junkie just because of the race that we picked. I'm telling you, even if you don't like Githyanki or you think the role play is weird, if you're playing a tactician run, I think Githyanki is absolutely slept on. It is the strongest metagame race in the game. And so that should be everything, boys. Again, just going over the tier list. Humans, it's unfortunate until we get a human variant in a DLC or something, humans are going to be at the very, very bottom. Followed by Dragonborn. And then in B tier, we have the Tiefling, as well as the gnomes that are not the rock gnome. The deep gnome. In A tier is a ton of stuff. Larian did a good job of making all of these races fairly strong, with exception of the human and the Dragonborn, in my opinion. They're all quite strong and good in their own way. So half-elf and elves, absolutely. I would say that the half-elf drow, if you're in tactician and you really know what you're doing, is an S tier. And the same thing with the drow. But if you're playing balanced, drow and half-elf drow would be an A tier here. The deep gnome, the dwarves, and the half-orc. The Duragar, the halfling's amazing. Duragar, however, that's going to move you into your S tier. Githyanki is going to be the best one you could possibly pick. And if you are in tactician and, you kind of have a good idea of what you're doing, drow and half-drow is very close, if not S tier. And so with that is my ranking system. If you want more long-form guides like this, let me know in the comments section. If you just want to hang out and watch some Let's Plays while we have fun and, blow stuff up and Vlaakith be praised while we're playing Githyanki, then come check out the Let's Play. Please like, share, subscribe. We just got started. I'd appreciate all the help that we can get. And, I'll see you in the next Let's Play.